Jake Morrison woke up to the sound of alien voices speaking in their strange clicking language. His head hurt badly, and his vision was blurry. The last thing he remembered was the explosion that tore his ship apart. The diplomatic mission to meet the Vorthax had gone wrong very quickly. He tried to move but found his arms and legs tied to a metal chair with thick alien cables. The room around him looked like a laboratory. Strange machines beeped and hummed along the walls. Glass containers filled with colored liquids sat on metal tables. The air smelled like chemicals and something rotten. 3 tall reptilian creatures stood near a table covered with sharp tools. Their scales were dark green and their eyes were yellow like a snake's. They had long claws on their fingers and spoke to each other in rapid clicks and hisses. One of them was clearly in charge. It wore a white coat like a doctor and held a tablet computer. Jake tested his bonds quietly. The cables were strong, but he had been in worse situations before. 10 years as a Navy SEAL had taught him patience. He watched the aliens and listened to their voices, trying to understand their mood and intentions. The lead alien noticed Jake was awake. It walked over slowly, studying him like a scientist looking at a bug under a microscope. When it spoke, its English was broken, but understandable. "Human, specimen is conscious," the alien said to the others. "Good. We can begin the tests." Jake kept his face calm even though his heart was beating fast. "Tests? I thought we were here for peace talks." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Peace talks were lie. We study your species for invasion planning. You are perfect test subject." "My name is Captain Jake Morrison," Jake said firmly. "I represent the Earth Defense Force. If you harm me, my people will come looking." "Your people think you are dead," the alien replied. "Your ship exploded. No survivors expected. Very convenient for our research." Jake felt a cold fear in his stomach, but he did not let it show on his face. The alien was probably telling the truth. His crew had been good people. He hoped some of them had made it to the escape pods in time. The lead alien picked up a tablet and read from it. "I am Dr. Zextal, chief scientist of this research facility. We have studied your species for many months. We know your weaknesses." "Is that so?" Jake asked, keeping his voice steady. "Yes. Humans are soft mammals. Weak bones, thin skin, slow. Healing, very easy to kill." Dr. Zextal gestured to the other aliens. "We have tested our weapons on human tissue samples stolen from your medical facilities. Results are very promising." Jake watched as the other aliens brought over a case filled with strange weapons. Most looked like surgical tools, but sharper and more deadly. One caught his attention immediately. It was a long blade made of some kind of crystal that seemed to glow with its own light. Dr. Zextal picked up the crystal blade and held it carefully. "This is our masterpiece, designed specifically to kill humans. The crystal is sharp enough to cut through your bones, but that is not the deadly part." The alien pressed a button on the handle, and the blade began to hum with energy. Inside the crystal is a cocktail of toxins. When the blade cuts flesh, it injects the poison directly into the bloodstream. Death comes in seconds. "Sounds painful," Jake said, though his mouth was getting dry. "We tested it on tissue samples from your hospitals. The poison stops the heart immediately. Even your strongest specimens died instantly." Dr. Zextal moved closer, studying Jake's face for signs of fear. "You should be begging for your life now." Jake looked the alien directly in its yellow eyes. "I don't beg." Dr. Zextal seemed disappointed by Jake's calm response. It had probably hoped for more drama. The alien made some clicking sounds to its assistants, who moved to hold monitoring equipment near Jake's chair. "We will record everything," Dr. Zextal explained. "Heart rate, brain activity, muscle response. This data will help us kill your species more efficiently when we invade your world." Jake tested his bonds again while the aliens set up their equipment. The cables were definitely strong, but not impossible to break if he could get the right leverage. He needed to stay calm and wait for the right moment. "Tell me something," Jake said casually. "How many human worlds have you attacked before?" Dr. Zextal paused in its preparations. "This will be first invasion. Your species is new to us. Then how do you know so much about human anatomy? We have been watching your world for 2 of your years. We collected samples from your medical waste, dead tissue, surgical specimens, blood samples from sick humans. The alien seemed proud of its thoroughness. Very complete database of human physiology. Jake almost smiled at that but kept his expression neutral. The aliens had been studying sick and dead humans. They had no idea what a healthy human could do when fighting for survival. Dr. Zextal finished its preparations and picked up the crystal blade again. Any last words, human specimen? Yeah, Jake said quietly. You picked the wrong species to mess with. The alien made its laughing sound again. Brave words for soft mammal about to die. Dr. Zextal raised the blade high above Jake's chest. The crystal hummed with deadly energy and the tip glowed brighter. The other aliens watched carefully, ready to record every detail of a human's death. The blade came down fast and struck Jake directly in the chest, just above his heart. It cut through his uniform and skin easily, sinking deep into his body. Jake felt the sharp pain and the strange tingling sensation as the alien toxins entered his bloodstream. Dr. Zextal stepped back with satisfaction, expecting to watch Jake die within seconds. The monitoring equipment beeped rapidly as it tracked his vital signs. The other aliens moved closer to observe the effects of their weapon. Jake felt the poison spreading through his body. His heart began to beat irregularly, and his vision blurred again. For a moment he thought the aliens might actually have succeeded in creating the perfect human killer. But then something strange happened. Instead of his heart stopping, it began to beat stronger and faster. The irregular rhythm smoothed out into a steady, powerful pulse. The blurred vision cleared and became sharper than before. Jake felt a familiar sensation from his military days, the rush of adrenaline and endorphins that came with mortal danger. Dr. Zextal stared at the monitoring equipment in confusion. Heart rate is increasing, not decreasing. Brain activity is higher than baseline. This is not possible. Jake looked down at the crystal blade sticking out of his chest. Blood was flowing around it, but not as much as the aliens had expected. He reached up with his bound hands and grasped the handle. Thanks for the pick-me-up, Jake said calmly and pulled the blade out of his chest. The alien stepped back in shock. Dr. Zextal dropped its tablet and made rapid clicking sounds of distress. The weapon that should have killed any human in seconds had failed completely. Jake examined the crystal blade with interest, blood still dripping from the wound in his chest. Nice craftsmanship. Must have taken a lot of work to design this thing. He looked up at the terrified aliens and smiled. Too bad you tested it on the wrong kind of humans. Dr. Zextal stared at Jake in complete shock. The alien's yellow eyes were wide with fear and confusion. It grabbed its tablet from the floor and checked the readings again and again. According to every test they had done, humans should die instantly from the crystal blade's poison. This is impossible, Dr. Zextal hissed to its assistants. The toxin concentration was perfect. No Earth mammal can survive this dose. Jake tested the cables holding his arms while the aliens panicked around him. The metal was strong, but he could feel it starting to bend under the pressure from his muscles. The wound in his chest was already starting to feel better. His body was doing what it had evolved to do over millions of years: adapt and survive. Maybe your tests weren't as good as you thought, Jake said calmly. One of the assistant aliens rushed to a communication panel and started making urgent clicking sounds. Within seconds, an alarm began blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed and Jake could hear the sound of running feet in the corridors outside. Dr. Zextal backed away from Jake, still holding the bloody crystal blade. You should be dead. Your heart should have stopped. Your brain should have shut down. Sorry to disappoint you, Jake replied. He pulled harder on his restraints and felt the metal cables start to stretch. But humans are tougher than you think. The laboratory door burst open and 6 armed Vorthok guards rushed in. They wore black armor and carried weapons that looked like rifles but glowed with energy instead of firing bullets. Their leader was taller than the others and had more scars on his scales. Commander Yithkar, Dr. Zextal said quickly. The human specimen has survived the toxin. Something is wrong with our data. Commander Yithkar looked at Jake with cold yellow eyes. How is this possible? Your reports said humans were weak creatures. They are weak, Dr. Zextel insisted. All our tests prove this. But somehow this one specimen is different. Jake watched the guards spread out around him. Each one had their weapon aimed at his chest. He could see the energy building up inside the barrels, ready to fire. These weapons looked much more dangerous than the crystal blade. 6 guards for one tied-up human? Jake asked. You guys really don't take chances, do you? Commander Yithkar stepped closer. Silence, creature. You will answer our questions about human military capabilities. I'll answer one question, Jake said. You want to know why I'm still alive? It's because you idiots tested your weapons on sick and dying humans. You never tried them on a healthy one. The commander made an angry hissing sound. Impossible. Sick or healthy, all mammals have the same basic biology. Jake laughed, which seemed to upset the aliens even more. That's where you're wrong. You see, humans didn't get to be the top predator on Earth by being the biggest or strongest. We got there by being too stubborn to die. He pulled hard on his restraints and the metal cables finally snapped. His arms were free, but he kept them in the same position, pretending to still be tied up. The guards were focused on his face and didn't notice the broken cables. Dr. Zextel was frantically reading data on its tablet. According to our biological models, the human nervous system cannot function with this level of tissue damage and toxin exposure. Your models are wrong, Jake said. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. We chase our prey until it collapses from exhaustion. That means we're built to keep going when any reasonable animal would quit. Commander Yithkar raised his weapon. Enough talk. You will tell us about Earth's defenses or we will increase the pain until you cooperate. Go ahead and try, Jake said quietly. The commander fired his energy weapon directly at Jake's shoulder. The blast was incredibly hot and burned right through his uniform and into his flesh. The smell of burned skin filled the room and Jake felt the searing pain shoot down his arm. But instead of screaming or begging for mercy, Jake just looked at the smoking wound and then back at the shocked aliens. That actually hurt a bit, he said casually, but I've had worse. The truth was that the energy blast had caused serious damage. Jake could feel his shoulder burning and his arm was getting numb. But he had learned long ago that pain was just information. His body was telling him he was injured, but it wasn't telling him to stop fighting. Commander Yithkar fired again, this time hitting Jake's other shoulder, then again at his leg. Each blast burned through clothing and flesh, filling the air with smoke and the smell of burned meat. The guards watched in amazement as Jake absorbed damage that should have left him unconscious and screaming. This is not possible, Dr. Zextal whispered. No biological creature can ignore this level of trauma. Jake worked his legs free from their restraints, while the aliens stared at his wounds. The energy blasts had hurt badly, but they had also given him something valuable. The aliens now thought their weapons were useless against humans. They had no idea that Jake was fighting through pain that would have stopped most people. Want to know a secret? Jake asked, standing up slowly from the chair. Blood was running down his arms and leg, but he moved like the injuries didn't bother him at all. The guards raised their weapons again, but Commander Yithkar held up a clawed hand to stop them. The alien commander was clearly trying to understand what he was dealing with. Humans don't just hunt other animals, Jake continued. We hunt each other. We've been fighting wars for thousands of years. We've learned how to keep going even when we're hurt, scared, and outnumbered. He took a step toward the nearest guard. The alien backed away nervously. And the thing about humans is, we get really angry when someone tries to hurt our friends and family. Jake's voice was still calm, but there was something dangerous in his eyes now. You killed my crew. You're planning to invade my world. That makes me very angry. Dr. Zextal was reading its data frantically. Commander, the human's adrenaline levels are off the charts. Its body is producing natural painkillers and stimulants at impossible rates. What does that mean? Commander Yithkar demanded. It means the human is entering a combat state that we did not account for in our models. Its physical capabilities are being enhanced by chemical reactions in its bloodstream. Jake smiled and cracked his knuckles. The sound made all the aliens jump nervously. "It means," Jake said quietly, "that you just made the biggest mistake of your lives." He moved faster than any of the aliens expected. Years of military training had taught him to use speed and surprise when outnumbered. He grabbed the nearest guard's weapon and spun the alien around to use as a shield, just as the other guards opened fire. The energy blasts hit Jake's improvised shield instead of him. He fired the captured weapon at 2 more guards, dropping them instantly. The energy weapons were powerful, but they were also easy to use once you understood the basic principle. Commander Yithkar and the remaining guards scattered for cover behind the laboratory tables. Dr. Zextal and its assistants ran for the door, abandoning their research in panic. Jake rolled behind a metal cabinet as more energy blasts filled the air around him. His wounds were hurting worse now, but the adrenaline in his system was keeping him focused and alert. He could hear the aliens shouting to each other in their clicking language. He had fought in worse situations than this during his military career. 6 against 1 wasn't great odds, but he had advantages the aliens didn't know about. They thought they were fighting a typical Earth mammal. They had no idea they were facing a human who had been trained for exactly this kind of combat. Jake checked his captured weapon and smiled grimly. It was time to show these aliens why humans had conquered their entire planet despite being smaller and weaker than most of the other predators they shared it with. Jake rolled out from behind the metal cabinet and fired at the guard closest to the door. The energy blast caught the alien in the chest, and it fell backward with a screech of pain. The other guards scattered further into the laboratory, knocking over tables and equipment in their panic. Commander Yithkar was shouting orders in the alien language, but his troops were clearly terrified. They had never faced an enemy that could absorb their weapon fire and keep fighting. Jake used their confusion to move closer, staying low behind the overturned tables. The burns on his shoulders and leg were getting worse, but Jake ignored the pain. He had learned long ago that the human body could do amazing things when pushed to its limits. The key was not to think about the damage, but to focus on the mission. An alien guard popped up from behind a table and fired wildly in Jake's direction. The energy blast went wide and hit a wall panel, causing sparks to fly everywhere. Jake took careful aim and returned fire, hitting the guard in the arm. The alien screamed and dropped its weapon. "How is this possible?" Commander Yithkar hissed from his hiding spot. "One human cannot defeat trained soldiers." "Your soldiers aren't trained for this," Jake called back. "They're trained to fight other aliens who give up when they get hurt." Jake moved to a new position while the aliens tried to figure out where he was. The laboratory was full of equipment and furniture that provided good cover. More importantly, the aliens were fighting defensively now instead of attacking. They were scared. Dr. Zextal had made it to a communication panel near the door and was frantically calling for backup. Jake could hear the alien scientist speaking rapidly in its clicking language. More guards would be coming soon. Commander Yithkar tried to flank Jake by moving around the side of the room, but Jake had been watching the aliens' movement in the reflection of a broken glass container. He spun around and fired just as the commander stepped into the open. The energy blast hit Commander Yithkar in the shoulder and spun him around. The alien commander fell hard against a table full of scientific instruments. Glass containers shattered and strange chemicals spilled across the floor. "You want to know what makes humans dangerous?" Jake asked, advancing on the wounded commander. "It's not that we're stronger or faster than other species. It's that we never know when to quit." The remaining guards tried to rush Jake all at once, hoping to overwhelm him with numbers. But Jake had been expecting this. He grabbed a metal stool and threw it at the first guard, knocking the alien off balance. Then he dived and rolled, coming up behind their position. The guard spun around to find Jake, but he was already moving again. He fired rapidly, not trying for killing shots, but aiming to wound and disable. One by one, the alien guards fell, until only Commander Yithkar was left conscious. Jake walked over to where the commander was lying among the broken glass and spilled chemicals. The alien's yellow eyes were filled with pain and confusion. "This cannot be happening," Commander Yithkar gasped. "Our intelligence report said humans were weak prey animals." "Your intelligence was wrong," Jake replied. "You studied sick humans and dead tissue samples. You never saw what a healthy human could do when fighting for survival." The laboratory door burst open and more guards rushed in. Jake counted at least 10 aliens, all heavily armed. But something was different about these ones. They moved more, carefully, and kept their distance. Word was spreading through the ship about what had happened in the laboratory. Jake raised his captured weapon, but he knew the odds were getting impossible. Even for a human, there were limits to what one person could accomplish against overwhelming numbers. That was when he heard the explosion somewhere else in the ship. The new guards turned toward the sound in confusion. Jake used their distraction to grab Commander Yithkar and pull the wounded alien in front of him as a shield. "Looks like I'm not the only human who survived your ambush," Jake said with satisfaction. Another explosion shook the ship, this one closer than the first. Emergency alarms started blaring and Jake could hear alien voices shouting throughout the vessel. The guards at the door were getting nervous, unsure whether to deal with Jake or respond to the new threat. Jake pressed his weapon against Commander Yithkar's head. "Tell your guards to back off or you die right here." The commander hissed something in the alien language and the guards lowered their weapons slightly. They were clearly unsure what to do in this situation. The third explosion was so close it knocked several of the guards off their feet. Jake could smell smoke in the air and feel the ship's artificial gravity fluctuating. Someone was doing serious damage to the vessel's systems. A new voice came over the ship's communication system. It was speaking English with a slight accent that Jake recognized immediately. "Attention, Vorthak vessel. This is Lieutenant Lisa Parker of the Earth Defense Force. You are harboring a human prisoner and planning an unprovoked attack on Earth. Release Captain Morrison immediately, or I will continue dismantling your ship piece by piece." Jake grinned, despite his pain and exhaustion. Lisa had been his communications officer on the diplomatic mission. She was smart, tough, and apparently very much alive. More importantly, she had found a way onto the alien ship. Dr. Zextal was staring at its tablet in disbelief. "This is impossible. Our sensors showed no survivors from the human vessel." "Maybe your sensors are as wrong as your biological data," Jake suggested. Commander Yithkar tried to struggle, but Jake tightened his grip on the alien. "How many humans survived the attack on our ship?" "The records show no escape pods were detected," the commander gasped. "Then your detection equipment is broken too," Jake said. "Humans are very good at staying hidden when they need to." Another explosion rocked the ship and the lights flickered. Lisa was systematically targeting critical systems, probably working her way toward the bridge or the engine room. The guards at the door were getting increasingly nervous as reports came in over their communication devices. Jake heard familiar footsteps in the corridor outside. Lisa always walked with a distinctive quick pace, especially when she was angry. The guards at the door spun around as she appeared in the doorway. Lisa Parker was smaller than Jake, but just as dangerous in her own way. She wore a torn and burned uniform and carried 2 alien energy weapons. Her dark hair was singed and there was blood on her face, but her eyes were sharp and alert. "Captain Morrison," she said calmly, as if finding him in an alien laboratory. Holding their commander hostage was perfectly normal. "Are you injured?" "Nothing serious," Jake replied. "Just some burns and a stab wound." "How did you get aboard?" "Maintenance airlock on deck 7. Their security is terrible." Lisa kept her weapons trained on the guards. "I've been setting charges throughout the ship. We have about 10 minutes before the reactor goes critical." The aliens in the room started making excited clicking sounds. Dr. Zextal was frantically working at its tablet, probably trying to contact the engine room. 10 minutes to do what?" Jake asked. "To get off this ship and transmit a warning to Earth," Lisa said. "I found their invasion plans in the computer system. They're not planning to attack just Earth. They want to wipe out every human colony in known space." Jake felt a cold anger building in his chest. It was one thing to attack a single ship on a diplomatic mission. It was something else entirely to plan genocide against his entire species. "Then we better make sure that never happens," he said, quietly. Commander Yithkar made a desperate grab for Jake's weapon, but Jake was ready for it. He struck the alien in the head with the butt of his energy rifle, knocking the commander unconscious. Jake looked at Lisa and smiled the same way he had when the crystal blade failed to kill him. "Ready to show these aliens what humans do to species that threaten their families?" Jake and Lisa moved through the alien ship like a team that had worked together for years, which they had. During their time in the Earth Defense Force, they had trained for exactly this kind of situation. The corridors were filled with smoke, and the sound of running aliens trying to deal with the damage Lisa had caused. "The bridge is 3 levels up," Lisa said as they moved past a group of alien crew members who were too busy fighting fires to notice 2 humans. "I need to access their main communication array to send a warning to Earth." Jake checked his captured weapon. The energy level was getting low after the fight in the laboratory. "What about the invasion fleet?" "According to their computers, they have over 200 ships waiting at the edge of this solar system," Lisa replied. "They were planning to attack as soon as they finished studying you. They reached a transport tube that carried passengers between decks. Jake pressed the button to call the elevator, but nothing happened. Lisa pulled out a small device that looked like it was made from alien technology. "Emergency override," she explained, connecting the device to the elevator controls. "I've been learning their systems while I planted the explosives." The elevator arrived and they stepped inside. As it started moving upward, Jake noticed Lisa looking at his wounds with concern. "Those burns look serious," she said. "How are you? Still fighting?" "Adrenaline mostly," Jake admitted. "And anger. These aliens killed our crew and they're planning to wipe out every human in the galaxy." "I found something else in their database," Lisa said quietly. "They've done this before. At least 3 other species have gone extinct after the Vorthax studied them." Jake felt his anger growing stronger. The Vorthax weren't just planning an invasion. They were serial killers on a galactic scale. They studied other species to find their weaknesses, then destroyed them completely. The elevator stopped, and they stepped out onto a deck that looked different from the laboratory level. This area had bigger corridors and fancier decorations. They were getting close to the command section of the ship. An alarm started blaring and alien voices echoed through the corridors. Someone had discovered the unconscious guards in the laboratory. Jake and Lisa would have to move faster now. They rounded a corner and came face to face with 6 heavily armed Vorthax soldiers. These aliens were bigger than the guards they had fought before, with thicker armor and more powerful weapons. They opened fire immediately without trying to capture the humans alive. Jake and Lisa dived in opposite directions as energy blasts filled the corridor. The walls were made of some kind of metal that glowed red hot where the alien weapons hit it. This was definitely a more serious fight than the laboratory guards. Lisa rolled behind a support pillar and returned fire. Her shot hit one of the soldiers in the leg, making him stumble but not fall. These aliens were tougher than the scientists and regular guards. Jake found cover behind a decorative statue of some alien creature. He aimed carefully and fired at the lead soldier's weapon, hoping to disable it. The energy blast hit the alien's rifle and it exploded in a shower of sparks. The soldier screamed and dropped the ruined weapon. "They're wearing better armor," Lisa called out. "We need to aim for the joints and weak spots." Jake studied the remaining soldiers as they advanced down the corridor. The armor covered most of their bodies but left gaps at the elbows, knees, and neck. It was designed to protect against alien weapons, not the precise shooting of trained humans. He waited until one of the soldiers was close enough, then fired a quick burst at the alien's elbow joint. The energy blasts punched through the gap in the armor and the soldier's arm went limp. Jake's second shot hit the same alien in the neck, dropping him completely. Lisa was having success with the same tactics. She hit one soldier in the knee joint, making him fall, then finished him with a shot to the head. The remaining soldiers started to back away, realizing they were losing the fight against just 2 humans. "Impossible," one of the soldiers hissed in broken English. "2 humans cannot defeat trained warriors." "You keep saying that," Jake replied, advancing steadily. "But we keep proving you wrong." The last 2 soldiers tried to retreat, but Jake and Lisa had positioned themselves to block the corridor. The aliens were trapped between the humans and a dead end. They surrendered by dropping their weapons and raising their clawed hands. Jake kept his weapon trained on the prisoners while Lisa searched them for hidden devices. She found communication equipment and what looked like emergency beacons. "How much time do we have left?" Jake asked. Lisa checked her timer. 6 minutes until the reactor overloads. We need to reach the bridge now. They left the surrendered soldiers tied up with their own equipment cables and continued toward the command center. The corridors were getting more chaotic as alien crew members ran around trying to save their ship. Dr. Zextel appeared ahead of them along with a group of alien technicians. The scientist was carrying a large device that hummed with energy. When it saw Jake and Lisa, its yellow eyes filled with desperate fury. "You have ruined everything," Dr. Zextal screeched. "Years of research destroyed by two primitive mammals." "Primitive? Mammals who are kicking your scales all over this ship?" Lisa pointed out. Dr. Zextal raised the device it was carrying. Jake could see energy building up inside it, much more than the hand weapons they had been fighting. This looked like something designed to destroy large targets. "This is a mining laser," the alien scientist announced. "It can cut through asteroid rock. It will vaporize both of you instantly." Jake looked at the weapon and then at Lisa. They were in an open corridor with no cover nearby. The mining laser was too big to dodge and too powerful to survive. This might be where their luck finally ran out. But Jake had noticed something Dr. Zextal had missed. The alien scientist was standing directly under one of the support beams that Lisa had weakened with her explosives. Jake could see small cracks in the metal where the charges had damaged the structure. "You know what your problem is?" Jake asked, raising his weapon. "What?" Dr. Zextal demanded, finger on the trigger of the mining laser. "You never learned to look up." Jake fired directly at the damaged support beam above the alien scientist. The energy blast hit the weakened metal and the entire section of ceiling came crashing down. Dr. Zextal and its technicians disappeared under tons of twisted metal and debris. The mining laser fired as it fell, sending a powerful energy beam through the ship's hull. Emergency alarms screamed as atmosphere began venting into space. Blast doors started closing automatically to contain the damage. "That's going to make things interesting," Lisa said as they ran toward the bridge. They reached the command center, just as the blast doors were sealing. The bridge was in chaos with alien officers shouting orders and trying to coordinate damage control. None of them noticed two humans entering through the maintenance hatch Lisa had prepared earlier. The bridge was larger than Jake had expected, with multiple levels and dozens of control stations. Alien officers worked frantically at displays, showing ship damage and system failures. At the center of it all sat the ship's captain in a chair that looked like a throne. Captain Vexkoth was older than the other Vorthax Jake had seen, with more scars and darker scales. When it saw the humans appear on its bridge, the alien captain's eyes narrowed with cold intelligence. "So these are the humans who have been causing so much trouble," Captain Vexkoth said in perfect English. "I am impressed, despite myself." "We're here for your communication system," Lisa announced, keeping her weapon ready. "And your invasion plans." The alien captain laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Even if you transmit a warning to your world, it will change nothing. Our fleet will arrive in 3 days. Your species will be extinct within a week." Jake smiled the same dangerous smile that had terrified aliens throughout the ship. "We'll see about that." Captain Vexkoth rose from his throne-like chair as Jake and Lisa kept their weapons trained on the bridge crew. The alien captain moved with the confidence of someone who had fought many battles and won them all. His scarred scales told the story of a long military career. "You cannot stop what is coming," Captain Vexkoth said calmly. "Even if you kill everyone on this ship, the invasion fleet will still attack your world. They do not need our signal to proceed." Lisa was already moving toward the main communication console while Jake covered her. The alien officers watched, nervously, but none of them tried to interfere. They had heard what happened to the guards who fought the humans. "Maybe not," Lisa replied, connecting her override device to the alien computer. "But we can give Earth a fighting chance." She began downloading everything from the ship's database while uploading a warning message to the Earth Defense Force. The alien computers were more advanced than human technology, but Lisa had learned their systems during her sabotage mission. Captain Vexkoth watched her work with growing concern. "You do not understand the power you are facing. We have destroyed civilizations that were far more advanced than your primitive species." "Primitive?" Jake asked, keeping his weapon ready. "We just took over your ship with 2 people and some captured guns." "You were lucky," the alien captain hissed. "Our forces were not prepared for your unusual biology. The invasion fleet will not make the same mistake." Lisa looked up from the communication console. "The warning message is transmitted. Earth will know about the invasion fleet in 6 hours when the signal reaches them. And what will your people do with 6 hours of warning? Captain Vexkoth asked mockingly. Hide behind their moon? Your species has no weapons that can threaten our fleet. Jake moved closer to the alien captain. You really don't understand humans at all, do you? I understand that you are mammals with short lifespans and soft bodies. I understand that you fight with chemical explosives and metal projectiles. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Our technology might be behind yours, Jake agreed. But there's something you haven't figured out about humans yet. Captain Vexkoth looked genuinely curious despite the situation. And what is that? We cheat. Lisa finished her work at the communication console and turned to face the bridge crew. I've also uploaded something else along with the warning message. Complete technical specifications for every Vorthak ship design, weapon system, and defensive technology. The alien officers started making agitated clicking sounds. Captain Vexkoth's eyes went wide with shock and anger. That information is classified at the highest levels, the captain snarled. It took us centuries to develop those technologies, and it will take human engineers about 6 months to copy them and improve on them, Lisa said with satisfaction. We're very good at reverse engineering alien technology. Jake could see the alien captain starting to understand the real problem his species faced. Humans weren't just tough to kill. They were also quick to learn and adapt. Even with our technology, you cannot build enough ships in time to stop the invasion, Captain Vexkoth said, but his voice was less confident now. We don't need to build ships, Jake replied. We just need to know how your shields work and what frequencies your weapons use. Lisa pulled up a display showing the Vorthak invasion fleet, 200 alien warships waiting at the edge of the solar system, ready to attack Earth and its colonies. Your fleet commanders are probably wondering why they haven't heard from you, she said. Should we send them a message? Captain Vexkoth remained silent, but Jake could see the fear growing in his yellow eyes. The alien captain was starting to realize that his species had made a terrible mistake. Lisa activated the ship's main communication system. Her voice would now be broadcast to every ship in the Vorthak invasion fleet. Attention, Vorthak invasion force. This is Lieutenant Lisa Parker of the Earth Defense Force speaking from your command ship. Your mission has failed and your technology has been compromised. Jake watched the alien bridge crew as Lisa continued her broadcast. They were all staring at their captain, waiting for orders that never came. You came here thinking humans were weak prey animals. You tested your weapons on sick and dying specimens and thought you understood our capabilities. You were wrong. The communication system crackled with incoming messages from the invasion fleet. Alien voices speaking rapidly in their clicking language, demanding explanations and new orders. Captain Morrison and I have survived everything you could throw at us. We have taken control of your ship, captured your officers, and transmitted your complete military database to Earth. Your surprise attack is no longer a surprise. Captain Vexkoth finally found his voice. The fleet will still attack. They cannot retreat now without losing honor. That's exactly what we're counting on, Jake said with a grim smile. Lisa continued her broadcast. But here's what you really need to understand about humans. We don't just fight to win. We fight to make sure our enemies never threaten anyone again. She pulled up another display showing Earth's defensive positions. What the aliens saw made several of them step backward in shock. While you were planning your invasion, humans were preparing for war. Every asteroid mining station has been converted to a weapons platform. Every cargo ship now carries military-grade missiles. Every human colony has become a fortress. The truth was that Earth had been preparing for possible alien attack ever since first contact with other species. Humans had learned from their own history that any civilization capable of interstellar travel was also capable of interstellar warfare. Your invasion fleet is outnumbered 5-1 by human defensive forces. Your weapons technology is now in human hands. Your ships are designed for fighting other aliens, not humans who refuse to surrender when they're hurt. Captain Vexkoth slumped in his chair as the reality of the situation hit him. The Vorthaks had planned a quick extermination campaign against a primitive species. Instead, they were about to face a prepared enemy that had turned their own technology against them. We offer you one choice. Lisa announced to the invasion fleet. Retreat to your home system and never threaten human space again. Any ship that enters our solar system will be destroyed. Jake checked the timer on Lisa's explosives. 2 minutes until the reactor overload. It was time to leave this ship and let the Vorthax deal with the consequences of their actions. This is not over, Captain Vexkoth said weakly. Other species will come for you. Humans cannot fight the entire galaxy. Maybe not, Jake admitted. But we can fight anyone who tries to wipe us out, and we'll make sure it costs them more than they're willing to pay. Lisa finished downloading the last of the alien data files. She had everything needed to give Earth a decisive advantage in the coming conflict. Time to go, she announced. The reactor will explode in 90 seconds. Jake and Lisa backed toward the maintenance hatch they had used to enter the bridge. The alien officers watched them go but made no attempt to stop them. They were too busy trying to figure out how their perfect plan had gone so wrong. Captain Morrison, Captain Vexkoth called out as they reached the exit. How did you survive the crystal blade? Our tests showed it would kill any human instantly. Jake paused at the hatch and looked back at the defeated alien captain. Your tests were wrong because you never understood what you were fighting. Humans aren't just another animal species. We're survivors. We adapt. We overcome. And we never give up. He smiled one last time, the same smile that had terrified aliens throughout the ship. That's why we're going home and you're staying here. Jake and Lisa escaped through the maintenance systems just as the reactor reached critical overload. Behind them, the Vorthak command ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light that could be seen from the distant invasion fleet. The message was clear to every alien commander watching. Humans were not the easy prey they had expected. They were something far more dangerous. A species that turned every attack into a learning experience and every defeat into motivation for victory. The invasion fleet turned around and headed home, carrying news that would spread throughout the galaxy. Earth was under human protection, and humans protected what was theirs with a ferocity that made other species think twice about threatening them. Jake and Lisa's escape pod was picked up by an Earth patrol ship 3 days later. They brought with them enough alien technology to advance human civilization by decades and a simple message that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. We came in peace, but we're prepared for war.